This is the video for IDLC Transform Session 2, Option 2. In this option, you will be planning and developing, followed by an implementation of a PD session for your school or a team at your school. The content of your PD will obviously be informed by the needs and the requirements and the technology that you have at your school. We're going to get into a little bit of the overview parts of what that should include, but the tool and how that looks, it will vary based on the needs of your school, as well as the input from your admin team. Something that you might want to consider is involving your admin team, or at least your principal, in this decision. If there's something that might work for them, or there's a collaboration that might be possible between the two of you, this might be a great way of showing leadership in a lot of different ways and involving your principal in what you're doing. Let's get started. Our rationale for asking you to plan and implement this professional development is for you to become a leader in the district. And for this option especially, the leadership role you're going to be taking in your school will be extremely evident, since you'll be leading the PD at your school. We want you to get your name and your face out to teachers and to principals around the district. We want you to be able to add this professional development opportunity and the implementation of the PDU plan to your resume. It can be a great resume builder and really help you to springboard into other opportunities and to take on more of a leader role at your school. We also want you to build confidence in yourself. There's a reason that you're in our cohort. There's a reason that we invest so much into you. We believe in what you're doing, and we think that with the right nudges forward, you can see the potential in yourself that we see in you. In terms of logistics, we want you to make sure that your group size is at least 8. So you can use your department, you can use a grade level, you can use a whole school. It's going to look different at different schools and with different topics. If you need to use mini sessions to total up to 8 people, that's fine. We understand that in some schools, teams and grade levels are very small, so that's perfectly fine. If it needs to be multiple sessions, it can definitely be multiple sessions. Think about asking your principal to find coverage during your PD opportunity so that more teachers can attend, and even thinking about more teachers from different grades. Try to think about that vertical articulation piece so that there can be that continuity between grades and get those really good collaborative conversations that teachers infrequently get to have due to scheduling issues. Please make sure that there's a sign-in sheet at your session. We want to make sure that we can somehow track who's going to be coming to your session, and that's something that needs to be submitted to your coach. And once you do that, we'll be able to give them research hours based on the work of your PD session. When you have your sign-in sheet, please make sure that it includes the location, the date, the title, and the agenda of what you cover. We want to make sure that you invite your coach to your session. It's possible that your coach might not be able to attend, but your coach really would like to attend as many of these sessions as they can. So as soon as you know when you're doing it, please make sure to invite your coach. And related to that, please make sure you touch base with your principal on the dates and the logistics of what you're doing and what your expectations are. In the Option 2 webpage, you'll see a proposal that we've laid out for you. You can use that as a guide to sort of think through the different areas of your professional development. And that's a great thing to share with your principal. You will be expected to share that with your coach as well, but it might be a good idea to start that conversation with your principal about what you're doing. As long as we're talking about your coach, we want to make sure that you're using your coach to prep for this as well as plan for this. So develop that plan, use your coach if you need support, if you need ideas, if you're struggling to find a tool, your coach can be a great source for that. And we also want you to make sure that you prep what you're doing with your coach. So have a good idea of what you're going to say, run through it a couple of times, run through it for your coach or run through it for someone else. On the Option 2 webpage, you'll also see the next steps or the PD planning and implementation requirements. There's one of these for each of the options. This one, it covers the information that you'll need to know to be successful with leading and developing and leading a PD for your school. The link up here, the short one on the screen, also takes you to this, so you can get it from the website or you can get it from the short URL. Your lesson should be at least 15 to 20 minutes. If it goes longer, that's fine, but make sure that there's enough material there to really get people interested and give them a good idea of what your instructional tool is. We want there to be an emphasis on the 4 C's. We've talked about the 4 C's a lot. The reason that the 4 C's are so important is that they're a critical part of the profile of an SC grad, so we want to make sure that that's addressed in your PD session. We want to make sure that it's a relatively new, one new thing technology tool, so some kind of new technology tool that has a big instructional component, but it also could be an older tool used in a newer and innovative way, something that you've developed or something that you found somewhere else. And we've said this before, but you have plenty of time to do this. This work is all due on January 18th, so definitely use your time. If you're questioning what you should do, or you look online and find a new tool that you've never used before, you have time to try it out. So use this time to try things out, think about what works for you, what works for your students. I alluded to it a second ago, but we want to make sure that it has a strong instructional component, that the technology tool really has to be instructionally useful in the class. We also want you to make sure that there's an element of reflection for your participants. So there should be reflection in here. There should be parts where they're being interactive with each other. Don't make it a whole session where you're talking and they're just sitting there listening. As I said before, we want to make sure that you run this plan by your coach, and we want to make sure that you are prepared. So running that by your coach and maybe even practicing your session in front of your coach might be a good way to do that. Please also think about your exit ticket. You want some sort of accountability piece. So how can it be used in different classrooms? You can talk about ask people how your presentation went, where areas they can grow. Finally, we want to make sure that you are using sort of pro tips. So we want to make sure that you're keeping your professional dress going on, make sure you're using professional language. And one thing that can be really helpful with that is sort of planning out the talking points that you want to use ahead of time so that you're not having to stumble for words once you're implementing your PD. So try and plan ahead with the things that you want to say. We want to make sure that your language maintains a positive attitude. There are certainly challenges to education and there are certainly challenges to being a teacher, but we want to try and stay as positive as we can for our participants. You want to make sure that you prep the technology in the room ahead of time. Don't depend on it working. Make sure you get there early, make sure everything is ready to go and you understand the way that things work. As I said before, and I can't say it enough, make sure you practice, make sure you know what you're going to say, make sure you know what you're going to do, and especially with your technology tool, make sure you know how it works before you get there. Make sure you've practiced it, use it with your students. Inevitably, teachers will have questions about how it's going to work with kids. Try to anticipate those and know what those answers will be. We're all really excited for the great work that you're going to do. We're excited to see the products and the outcome that you have. Please make sure you utilize your coach as the great resource that they are. They're there to help you, and they're really excited to see what you're able to do.